Continuing here on Gitin Daf Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. I think it's 9 lines down in the wide lines. So Toshima. Yeah, we have a Braisa, and the Gemara is going to ask another kasha on what Rav Nachman said yesterday. Rav Nachman wanted to bring a raya from our Mishnah that we could say that Adibur di Deika Samach. Right, so the Gemara didn't get out of this yet. The Gemara is going to continue with this with Nocha Kasha. So Haveli Giti, a woman said to her shliach, "Bring me my get." So she did not appoint him to be a shliach lohelocha. I'm sorry, a shliach lekabbalah. Just that he should bring the get as a shliach lohelocha. And the shliach changed the words of the Baal, and he said, "V'ishtecha omra eskabeli Giti." And he tells the husband that your wife appointed me to be the shliach lekabbalah. Or the other way around. Hiskabeli Giti. She says to the shliach, "Go accept the get for me." Ve'ishtacha amra haveli Giti. And then he, the shliach changed the words again, or it's a different case, and he said, "Ve'ishtacha amra haveli Giti." Just be a shliach lahilocha, for the Baal. So v'hu amar hoilich v'tein, and the Baal says, bring it to her. Zechila, or be mezakeh to her, v'eskabela, or be mekabel for her. So rotza lachzor yachzor. So calls man that she didn't get the get yet, he can be chayzer. Mishigeh get liyada megureshes. As soon as the get gets to her hand, she's megureshes. Not al yidei the shliach until it gets it to her hands. So in fact, what are we talking about? We have two cases here, right? Again, so you have haveli Giti, is the first case, and then we have eskabeli Giti. And in either case, the shliach changed around, misconstrued the wording of the Mishaleach. So my love, what are we talking about? Kabbalah, Kabbalah, v'halacha, ahalacha. What's meintos? Zok Rashi. Zechiva heskabel diktani koya ishtacha omra heskabel. This that the Braisa says, Zechiva heskabel, is talking about where the wife said to be mekabel the get, v'halach v'tein diktani koya ishtacha omra havei, which would be a shlich lahalacha. And in both cases, side with the shliach lahilocha and side with the shliach lekabbalah, we're saying that it's dafka when the get comes to her hand, it's going to be meguresh. She's going to be megureshus. It's going to be a kash on Rav Nachman from kabbalah kabbalah. Why is that? He says bring the get, and the isha says to be mekabel the get. V'hu omer hiskabel, and he says hiskabel the behedya yave and yele b'teres kabbalah. He gave it to the shliach, or gave it to her directly b'teres kabbalah. Ubal lav bar hochihu, the Baal can't be the one to be the shliach l'kabbalah. V'ihi nami lo shavise, and at the same time she never appointed this person to be the shliach l'kabbalah either. V'katani have a mir shliach l'halacha, but we do say that he is considered shliach l'halacha. There's no detriment in a confused or a mess up with the shliach lahalacha. The detriment is the consequence is only going to be if it's the shliach l'kabbalah, because that would mean, by the shliach l'kabbalah, that would mean that as soon as this person takes the get, she's already megureshes, even if the get did not get to her hands yet. Masha'enken shliach lahalacha, the way it works is that she's only megureshes once the get actually gets into her hands, not like by shliach lahalacha. Shazak the Gemara Azeh. So my love, we're assuming that what we're talking about in this case is that Kabbalah, v'halacha, ahalacha. That the first case that we're talking about where the shliach said, Ishtacha Amra Eskabeli Giti, that's what we're talking about, a shliach lahalacha, ahalacha v'tein la. So then it's going to be a kasha Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman says that the shliach is the one that said that he's a shliach l'kabbalah, and he basically tricked the husband into thinking that he's also a shliach l'kabbalah by saying that he's his kabbalah to be mekabel the get, even though like you just saw in Rashi, even though the Baal can't be the one to appoint the shliach. Right? Zak the Gemara, no, we can't say this because kabbalah ahalacha v'ahalacha kabbalah. In the first case where the shliach said ishtacha amra eskabeli Giti, so the husband used the lashon of ahalacha, hailach v'tein la. And in the second case where the shliach said ishtacha amra haveli Giti, and the Baal used the lashon of kabbalah as in zechila or his kabbalah, so then we're not going to be able to even ask the kasha on Rav Nachman from the Reisha of the Raisa, because the whole kasha of the Reisha is that she would end up being megureshes when the get comes to her hand, because the Baal appointed her. The Baal appointed a shliach, the Ferish, as a shliach lahalacha, and the shliach went ahead with the shliachus properly to bring her the get. Masha Enkein in the case of Rav Nachman, where the husband said, Helach Kamaisha Amra, go do as she said. So maybe he was mechaven to fulfill what the shliach said, which would be a shliach l'kabbalah, which would be different or incorrect from the standpoint of the Baal. So in fact, the Gemara Kabbalah Ahilacha, if we're explaining the case in the Braisa that in the Seifa where the shliach said Ishtacha Amra Have Legiti and the Baal said Zechila or Kabbalah. So since Lefiha Emes, the woman appointed him to be a shliach l'kabbalah, and the husband also does not have a problem, technically shouldn't have a problem here either, because he said Heskabelo Gita, so she should be able to accept the get. So then the din should be Mechimati Gita Liyade La'alta Lehave Gita. So as soon as the get comes to her hands, she should be Megureshes. And the Braisa says that Dafka, when the get gets to her hands, not to the shliach's hands, she's going to be Megureshes. So Shamat Mino, we see from here that the Adibur Dideka Samach. So now we could go back to bringing a raya that we could be samech on what he says. Yeah, we're still in the same place where we left off yesterday. We're just a few lines later. We didn't get that much further yet. We're still stuck in this whole business over here. So Li'olam, we're saying that the Baal is going to be samech on the shliach that said b'shem the isha. Yeah, he said, she said, she said, he said. Everybody's saying something else over here. No one's really communicating too well over here. So in the Seifa where the shliach says Ishtacha Amra Have Legiti, so the Baal is relying on that, and he's appointing this shliach, a shliach le'locha, to bring the get to the woman, and not a shliach l'kabbalah. But in truth, the woman appointed him to be a shliach l'kabbalah. The husband doesn't know that, so the husband's only appointing a shliach l'halacha. So if it's only a shliach l'halacha, so when the get gets to her, she's not megureshes until she's mekabel the get. If she's a shliach, if this fellow is a shliach l'kabbalah, so then she's going to be megureshes as soon as the shliach picks up the get. Yeah. So when the Baal says Heskabela, it doesn't mean that he's appointing him to be a shliach l'kabbalah. He's saying accept upon yourself the shlichus of the get, meaning accept upon yourself to carry the get, to transport the get. So it's not specific that he's making him a shliach l'kabbalah. But if that's true, then we could be parshed from this brisa, the Gemara's original question, that where the shliach changes the wording of the isha, and he says to the husband, the shliach says to the husband, "Helach kamaisha amra," right? Because if he says, "Go do as she said," she appointed him as a shliach l'kabbalah, meaning this shliach. So this shliach has a dual identity, meaning when he's working for the isha, he's working for the ish, and he's doing his own thing. He's playing games with everybody. So in fact, the Gemara doesn't like this, right? The Gemara is going to go away from it. So hashta, could we be medama the brisa to the question that the Gemara asked earlier? Hasam ka'amalei, in the case where the Gemara was misupik about where the Baal told the shliach helach kamasha amra. So then there's makom to be unsure that maybe he was mechaven on, maybe he's going to be samech. His kavanah is going to be samech on what the woman actually said, because helach kamasha amra is very not specific. And because it's not specific, then we could attach to, he's just floating. This is a lashon of just floating around. So, like she said, what did she say? He says one thing. She said the shliach says one thing. She actually said something else, right? So, but in the Sefer, the Brisa Mika Amar leHelach Kamash Amar. In the Sefer, he didn't say Helach Kamash Amar. In the Sefer, he said Haveli is Giti Hiskabel v'Hailachla, right? It didn't say. The Baal didn't say Helach Kamash Amar. So you can't bring a raya. And this is where the Gemara ends. So the pashtus is that the Saif Maisa, the Maskana Sasugi over here is that there's no Raya Adibur Didei Kasamach, and we can't be Miyashav this Sugya. We can't be Miyashav that Sugya in Bav Metzia that we tried to be Miyashav with what Rav Nachman said. It doesn't, it's going to be different. And, this guy that's making trouble over here, we'll deal, obviously we'll have to, we'll do what we can based on the knowledge that, that we're given. But that's the story. Okay. Fine, Dr. Gemara Vaita, we have a brisa. Tanu Rabbanon, what's learned in a brisa. Hiskabel Giti, the Isha said to the Shliach, go be Mekabel the get. V'ishtacha Amra, and the lady says, V'ishtacha Amra, and the Shliach says to the Baal, that your wife says, Hiskabel Giti, that I should be Mekabel the get. V'hu Omer, and the Baal says, Hoylech v'tein lo, go and give it to her. or he says zechila, or v'hiskabela. So rotza lachzor lo yachzor. If he wants to back out, he can't back out over here. Now, why can't he back out over here? So, right. So as soon as the like Yossi's saying, that as soon as the shliach picks up the get, it's a done deal. Goodbye. It's over. Okay. Reb Nasan Omer, and here's a new shita which we didn't see yet. Reb Nasan Omer holich v'tein lo, rotza lachzor yachzor, zechila v'eskabelo, rotza lachzor lo yachzor. Depends on the lashon that he used. If he says holich v'tein lo, if he wants to back out, he can back out. If he says zechila v'eskabelo, meaning zechila or a lashon of hiskabelo, if he wants to back out, he cannot back out. Now, why is that? Because he says beferish that the shliach is going to be zeich in the get for her. So if the shliach is going to be zeich in the get for her, so as soon as the shliach gets it, goodbye. It's a done deal. Now the brisa continues. Rabbi says bekulon in all the cases, regardless of the lashon that you used, and ratza lachzor lo yachzor, there's no backing out whatsoever. Aval, this we saw yesterday in the Gemara. Avalim omar lo efshi shetekabelo elo holich v'tein lo ratza lachzor yachzor. But if he says, I want her to be mekabel in this specific way, efshi shetekabelo elo holich v'tein lo, I don't want that you should be mekabel for her, but you should go and bring it to her. So ratza lachzor yachzor, because it doesn't finish right. So you get into a lot less trouble if you set it up this way, as we spoke yesterday. So frankly, Gemara Rebbe Hainu Tanakama. So what's Rebbe being meisv on the Tanakama? The Tanakama said this halacha. What's Rebbe being meisv? What's Rebbe being mechadish on what the brisa started off with? So Iba Yisema EFG Aslashmin, and it could be that the chiddush of what Rebbe is coming to teach us is the story of EFG, which the Tanakama did not make any mention of, right? And that would be Rebbe's halacha. Meaning it's true that Rebbe is not be'etzem coming to be mechadish on halacha. He's just pointing out to you this concept of that EFG can play out. To make life a lot simpler, we'll just say that Rebbe is the actual Tanakama, and so then why do you have to? What's Rebbe talking about? Because of EFG. The two Jerusalem go together very well. Okay, which is a lot of times the Derech HaGemara to speak out that the Tanakama is taka the same one Mandi Omar that says a different memra, but he's just explaining something, or which l'chayrik, if you the way the Gemara is saying is Rebbe is just being mefarish exactly how he spoke in the. It's a little bit of a hisafa, but he's explaining how it worked in the Reisha of the Brisa. Okay, fine. So frankly, Gemara, a question like this. Ibaylahu. Heilach l'Reb Nasan kischidami or lav kischidami. According to Reb Nasan, who said that hoylech v'tein lo ratza lachzor yachzor, zechila v'hiskabelo ratza lachzor lo yachzor. So that's klared din, right? So now we had another halacha that we mentioned yesterday. That what happens, which the Gemara was masupik about already yesterday. What if he says heilach? So heilach is not hoylech. Hoylech, he's commanding the shliach to go and bring her to get. Halach sounds like, what does that mean? How does halach work? So let's see what the Gemara says. Yeah. So he says halach aget. So Reb Nasan holds that halach is lav kischidami. So if he says halach is imaida, that he means that halach kamasha amra, or like halach kamasha amra, and to be zeiche in the get. Or maybe Reb Nasan holds that if he doesn't say beferish zechila, because Reb Nasan doesn't hold of halach kischi, he holds halach lav kischidam, right? So unless he says beferish zechila, even if he says halach, so it's not going to work. So halach doesn't mean zechila, but halach would mean to be a shliach lahalacha. So the Gemara is going to try to figure this out now. So Tashema, so let's bring a raya. A person said to shlich to go be makabel the get for his wife, or bring this get to my wife, and if he wants to back out, he can back out. But if the woman says to the shliach to be makabel the get for her, and the husband says any one of the l'shainas like hiskabel or hoylech, if he wants to back out, he can no longer back out. So my love, what are we talking about? Behelech Reb Nasan. So we're saying that we're talking about a halach, And Reb Nassan is arguing, and he's saying that by Hoylech, the Polik b'Hoylech, Umayda b'Heilech. That's what Rashi says on the top line. Reb Nassan says that he's being Choylech on the Tanakama by Hoylech, because Hoylech is Lav Kischi, but Heilech would mean that you would be a regular Shliach L'Heilech. So frankly, well, why are you saying that? Maybe we could say the other way around. Maybe we're talking about Loi, b'Hoylech v'Rebbe. Maybe we're talking about that we could be Deicha the Girs in the Mishnah that it's Hoylech, and really we're going like Rebbe who holds Hoylech is Kischi Dami, and because the Isha appointed this person as a Shliach L'Kabbalah, the Baal can't back out, so you can't bring a ride from here. The Reb Nassan is maskim by Heilach that he's making a Shliach L'Heilach. So the Gemara wants to bring a raya from the Hemshech Mishnah, the Hemshech Brayis Hazeh. Tashema noch a raya. Lefikach im Amar leHabal yafshish et Kabbalah Eloheilich v'Teinla Rata Lachzar Yachzar. So since we said that he doesn't have the possibility to back out after he gave the get to the shliach, so then it's a done deal and he can't back out anymore. But im Amar leHabal, if the Baal said to the shliach of the Isha, yafshish et Kabbalah, I don't want her to be mekabel the get. Meaning, I don't want to give over the get al manas. That when as soon as the shlich is going to pick up the get, she's going to be megureshes. Eloheilich v'teinla. So then, since he says he's changing it around, that he does not want her to be a shlich le-kabbalah, but rather just a shlich le-locha. If he wants to back out, then he can back out. So Zakti Umar Azeh. Time b'damar yavshi. The reason why this works is because he's mefarish with what he's saying, that he doesn't want the shlich to be mekabla for her. And therefore, being that the Baal is technically the one that's running the whole show over here, so she's not going to be migureshes from the Kabbalah. But if he does not say Yafshi, then Ratza Lachzar, Lo Yachzar, he can't back out even if he wanted to. Right? Meaning that he wasn't Megala Das, that he wants her to be Megureshes in a different way. So my love, what are we talking about? Behelach Reb Nassan. Maybe we should say that what it says in the Braisa, Efshish at the Kabbalah, Elahelach v'Teinla, not Hoylach v'Teinla, but Helach v'Teinla, meaning here it is and go. And the Mishnah would be like Reb Nassan, that says that Hoylach is Lav Kischi. And if the husband would say Hoylach, even if he doesn't say Efshish at the Kabbalah, he would still be able to back out. But because the Helach is Kischi, right? So that would mean that as soon as she's going to get the get, she's going to be Mguresh. So then he would have to speak out this Tanai of making it not work that way. So the Gemara, the same thing that the Gemara said before, maybe the Brisa, meaning the same way you're telling me that we could say that maybe the Lashon of the Brisa really is Helach Reb Nassan, we could say it's Helach Rebbe, and then Helach Rebbe, it is going to be a good get. Unless he's Mefarish with the EFC, like, that's going to apply in all the cases. Tashema, let's bring Nacharayah. So, Hoylech gets el ishti, Rata Lachzar, Yachzar. Helech gets el ishti, Rata Lachzar, Lo Yachzar. Now we have a brayz that it's saying beferish that if a person says Helech gets el ishti, if he wants to back out, he can't. Because the lashon of Helech is mashma, that he wants the shliach he specifically wants the shliach to take the get, and therefore what? Because he wants the shliach to be mezaka, to be zeich in the get for the isha who appointed him to be a shliach l'Kabbalah. So what about Yavshi? But obviously he didn't say that, because if he would, then it would work, right? But pashtus. I'm sticking this in, but pashtus, right? So man shamitz like the Amar b'Hoylech Ratza Lachzar Yachzar. Who's the one of the brayso that holds that if you say Hoylech, then you could back out? So then that's Reb Nassan. Because Amar b'Hoylech Ratza Lachzar Lo Yachzar. But now when it comes to Helech, we're saying that you can't back out. So meaning in any way that if he said Helech that you can't back out. So when it comes to Helech, so Shma Mina, Helech is Kischi Dam Mishma Mina. So Zakti Gemara, it's a good raya to say from here that Helech is Kischi. That just like Helech, meaning those Tanam that hold the Helech is Kischi, they hold the Helech also is Kischi. But not only that, and that's obvious, that's Pasha, that was understood earlier. But we're saying over here that even Reb Nassan, who holds that Helech is Lav Kischi Dami, but when it comes to Helech, even Reb Nassan is going to be masking. Okay, good. Itmar, we learned his Kabbaligiti. The Isha says to the Shliach, go be Mekabel get. And the Ishtacha Amra, and then the Shliach goes to the husband and says, his Kabbaligiti, V'hu Eimer, and the Baal says, Haylech v'tein lo, go and give it to her. Omer Rav Abba, Omer Rav Huna, Omer Rav Nasa Shlucha, Shlucha v'chayletas. So Rav Huna says that this person becomes a shliach of the Isha, and also becomes a shliach of the Baal, and the same way, meaning he becomes a shliach lahilach of the Baal and becomes a shliach l'kabal of the Isha. So if the husband dies before the get gets to her, so then we have to be, then we're mesupik if she's migureshes, because maybe she, maybe the guy died before she got to get, maybe the guy died after he got to get, right? But the thing is that after there's a get, see, we no longer have to do chalitza, right? If there's a case of yibum over here, we no longer have to do chalitza. We only have to do chalitza if he only has to do chalitza if they were married. But if there was no more marriage anymore, then there's no more chalitza. So the question is like this. So, Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Nasa Shlucha Ushlucha v'chayletzes. Let's see Rashi over here. In Meis Habal Kaidem Sheigia get li'other chayletzes le'mis yabemes. So why is this? So the Gemara is going to try to clarify why this is. Remember, do you mean to say the mesapkele l'Rav Yeholich Kischidami Ilav Kischidami is the reason why we're mesupik over here, or we're not sure over here? Meaning we're saying chayletzes le'mis yabemes because to give the right to the yibum, we don't want this person to be over on the isurim that come together with yibum. So do you mean to say that we're mesupik if Rav holds Heilich Kischidami or not? V'ho itmar Heilich mana leploni. If a person says to shliach, go bring this $100 to Pliny Shani Chayvloi, so Amar Rav, so Rav says if he loses the money before the shliach brings the money to the malva, chayiv b'achar yusis, and the leiva is still chayiv in achrayis, and he still has to pay back the chayiv. V'imba lachzar ein chayzer. And if the leiva wants to back out after he gave the money to the shliach, and he wants to be mevatel the shlichus, he can't be mevatel the shlichus because he said Heilich and Heilich is kischidami. So kumtais. So what's happening over here? That as soon as he told the leiva, as soon as the leiva told the shliach Heilich man is elaplaini, so the shliach was zeichen this money for the malva. So it's clear from here that Rab holds that Heilich is kischidami, and so by money, it seems that Rav is very clear what halach is, and there's no makom to be mesupik when it comes to a get. So that's what the Gemara's kasha is. So how come by money it seems like Rav is very clear, and when it comes to gittin, Rav is a shtickle, it sounds like it's a shtickle mesupik. The Gemara is interesting because the Gemara is not asking it as a question. The Gemara was itmar, which is more like a statement, but Amr Baba, Amr Rav Huna, Amr Rav, Nasa Shlucha, Shlucha v'chayletzes. Right? And the Gemara jumped in over here and said, Lememra the mesapkele l'Rav. Right? Do you mean to say that Rav is mesupik over here? Right? So the Gemara is asking, is Rav mesupik over here? So it's the Gemara like this. So when it comes to money, money is different than a neshis ish that we're being matter over here. Hasam safik b'mayna over here by the case of the malv and the leiva when he tries to stop the shlichus, it's a safik mammon. So then we could say it's safik mammon is lakula, right? And we could say that the malva was already zeicha in the money before the, as soon as the shliach picks up the money, he was already zeicha in it for the malva. So the leiva can't back out because the money already belongs to the malva. So how come by gerushin we don't say the same thing? So Zak the Gemara, because over here, Hacha Safik Yisur L'chumra, over here it's a Safik Yisur, and we're going to go L'chumra. Zak Rashi. So, Mesab Kalei Heilich Kizchi. So are we mesupik about Heilich Kizchi and his Gash B'Kabbalah Shalzei Lav Kizchi? Meaning, if not for the fact of Kizchi, obviously she would be Megureshes. So Chayv Ham Shalech B'Achar Yusay. The Mishalech, which is the Leiva, who sent the money to the Malva, so he's Chayv B'Achar Yusay. Why? So Rashi makes the story very clear. The Malva never told him that he needs the money back now. It's not coming from the Malva. It's coming entirely for the Leiva. So if the Shliach messes up, so then the Leiva is going to be Chayiv. So it's like the Gemara because Savik Mammon is Lakula. The one that wants to be Maitzi the Mammon, he's got the lower hand, right? Meaning that the Leiva in this case would be would have the lower hand. So you wouldn't be able to back out over here. And when it comes to a Safik Isser, a Safik of an Eshes Ish, meaning it's a Safik if this get went through or not, or if she's Mechuyev to do Yibum now, and she's going to be also to marry anybody because she's in a case of Yibum. So therefore we have to go l'chumra, and we have to say that maybe Taka the Shliach was not Zoich in the get for the Isha, and there was no Gerushin over here, and then she's going to be also to marry everybody else. And so on the tzad that there's a case of Yibum over here, so then that's why we're going to be Machmir, and we're going to be Machmir that she's Chelat Islam Yabemes, because on the tzad that, on the tzad to be Machmir the other way would be that she would end up being over on Eishesach, and we want to prevent it also. So l'chumra Chelat Islam Yabemes. Okay, Omar Rav. A woman is not able to appoint a shliach l'kabbalah that should be mekabel the get from the shliach l'halacha that the Baal sent. Reb Chanina Omar Isha oiser shliach l'kabbalah gitim yad shliach baila. Reb Chanina holds that a woman is able to appoint a shliach l'kabbalah to get it from the shliach l'halacha from the husband. So this machlekes of Reb Chanina is like this. There's two shluchim. There's a shliach l'halacha to Baal, and there's a shliach l'kabbalah to the woman. So that's what the machlekes is. So my time to the Rav. What's pshat and Rav? So the Gemara is going to say two mahalchim. The Baal. Is it because maybe it's because of bizayin the Baal, which is Rashi, because she says like it's pasnish that I should have to accept a get from the husband directly, so I'm going to appoint somebody else. So it's a zilzal to the husband. The iluki avdel kabam yada Baal and kachshash bizayin the hayad of like kapit. What's this talking about over here? Because when he makes a shliach to be mekabel from the Baal, there's no chash b'zayin because he knows, and obviously he's not makbid. So in the case where the Baal is makbid that the woman should not be mekabel to get by herself, and I mean I guess it depends on what the Baal is comfortable with in a sense. Because if the Baal is makbid on this that the woman should not be mekabel to get on her own, I'm sorry, that should not be mekabel to get from a shliach. But rather she should be makabel to get on her own. So then, we have to. So Rav says we have to accommodate that. What does this mean? Zorak Rashi. After the husband gave her the get, she's going to be makabel the get. She's going to be kind of the get in someone else's chatzar. The who lav gita hava. If it's not going to be in her own personal rishus, she's not going to. It's not going to be a good get. Why? The be'inon v'nasam biyada oy b'chatzer des raboy miyada, and we need to. The pasuk says v'nasam biyada, right? So the Gemara in the beginning of Azarik is Mosif that the Gemara is marba, just like yada gaga chatzer v'karfifa. All her other properties, her garage, her chotzer, her yard, her house, works as an extension of yada to be makabel the get. So what's happening over here? The Baal appointed Ruvain to give the get to Shimon. That's going to give it to the Isha, right?
Regular case.
No, until now we were talking about that it was one guy that was doing two roles, that he was bouncing back and forth. So over here, the Chatzah didn't belong to her. Because Rinan Shlei Kabel Shlech Ishmi at Shlech Bailam from the Dami Laharsha Kadam Abal and Masr Lechach Ve'akakach Azza He Shlech Lekabla. But also Nami Lamemar Chatza Haver Shlech Abal. Chekanasa Hinas Chatza Atzur Shlucha. So let's slow down over here and let's try to break it down. So really, there's a gzeir over here that we're afraid that the Chatzer that she needs to use to be Mekabel the get, to be kind of it, has to be hers. Right. So if we're going to allow her to appoint a shliach to be mekabel get from the shliach of her husband, after the husband already gave over the get to his shliach, so we might come to make a mistake and think that even in a case where the husband gave the get, where the husband put the get in the chatzar of somebody else, and then that person was makna this chatzar or this place to the isha. So then that's how it would work. So then she would be able to be zoicha in the get with this kinyan chatzar, right? So the be'inam v'nasam b'yada ebe chatzer d'shabay miyada v'zeh b'shasha nasan lehaya chatzar shalah. And this when he gave over when the shliach gave her the get, meaning the second shliach is giving her the get. Lo haya chatzar shelo. The chatzar didn't belong to her yet. So the Gazrina were afraid over here. The Rabbanan were afraid. They made exera shleich kabel shleich isham yad shleich baila. We're afraid that the shliach that the woman appointed is not going to accept it from the shliach that the husband appointed. Mishum de dami laharsha kodam abal umasur liat shliach v'achikach azasahi shliach lekable. Because it's going to look very similar to a case where the husband gave over the get to the shliach, and then she made that person a shliach lekabala only after he was already appointed a shliach lahilach. Va'asu nami lamemar chatzar havi shliach habal, and she also might come to think that the chatzar belongs to the husband, meaning that the chatzar is working as a shliach for the husband. Ukshekinasa, when she's kind of the get in the chatzar, he nasa chatzar atzma shlucha. She might make a mistake and think that the chatzar itself is working as a shliach, and we know that chatzar is mishum yada israbai and not mishum shlichus, right? So it's a question in the Gemara b'chlal. What's the lumdus of why a person's chatzar should work, right? But in Hasarik, the Gemara says clearly that gaga chatzer v'kafifa minayin, because it comes from yada. It's a 9 zayin of an aleph. It's there. I mean, it was there last time I learned it. So it's probably there this time, right? That's one of the first Gemaras over there. Yeah. Hasarik ket l'ishtavi b'sech beis. Yeah. Minani milah tana rabbanon. Minasam yada. Eli el yada. Gaga chatzer v'kafifa minayin. Tamalei minasam mikol makan. Tani nami hachig avekana v'chul b'rayt. So there's a whole Gemara over there that how chatzar is going to work to. So she thinks that the lumdus of chatzar is that it's working like a shliach. Chatzar doesn't work as a shliach. Chatzar works automatic because just like it's biyada, right? In a similar rifin, it's like the isha is not sure. Let's say the isha thinks that the guy's a shliach lahalach and is really a shliach l'kabbalah, all right? If it's a shliach l'kabbalah, we know already that she's megareshes as soon as he picks it up. As soon as he picks it up, not she picks it up. She doesn't have to do anything now. She's ready megareshes. Masha'enkin shliach lahalach, she needs to do a ma'isa, or he needs to give it to her in order for there to be a gerusha. So by being saimach on the chatzar as being a shliach lahilacha, and she would have to go pick it up, she's already megareshes from the fact that the get is ready in her chatzar. So they might say that the same way that she's able to appoint a shliach to be mekabel her get from her shliach lahilacha, so to her chatzar would be a shliach of the Baal, right? And then when she's going to be kind of the get from within the chatzar, she's going to say that the chatzar becomes like it's hers, but she's already megareshes beforehand, because chatzar doesn't work like a shliach lahilacha. Chatzar works mishum yada, which would be like a shliach lekabbalah. So frankly, Umar Ma'benai, what's the difference between the two pshatim in Rav? Mishum bizayin the Baal and mishum chater bala achamikan. Seika beinayu the kadma ihi v'shavi shliach meikara. Nafkamina would be in a case where she appointed a shliach before the husband did. Meaning, she appointed a shliach kabbalah before the husband appointed a shliach lahilacha. Because if the whole reason is mishum b'zayin the Baal, even in this case the husband's going to be makbid that his shliach would have to give to her shliach, right? But in the sequence of events, this point it doesn't really matter, right? The problem of chatzera bala achamikan is going to be like this. So there's no makom to be geyser mishum chatzera. Why? Because she already appointed her Kabbalah, so she's okay. There's no chash of chatzera bala achamikan. So my beinayu zok Rashi bein hani trei lishni. What's the difference between these two? Ibayis aim is of Rav. The kadma I v'shavi shliach. Dida kaidem shemas arbali shluchay. She appointed a shliach lekabbalah before the husband appointed a shliach at all. The hashtal adam lechatzer balachamikan. There's no lachamikan because she already had the shliach appointed to begin with. Okay, fine, good. Zok the Gemara Amaisa. Yeah, hahu gaver the shad legidul dvisu. Somebody sent a shliach lohilacha to give a get to his wife. Ozal shlicha. So the shliach went to the woman. Ashricha kiyasa v'kalaisha. She sees that the woman is kneading the dough. Omar lo helach gitich. So he says to her, "Here's the get that your husband gave." Omra lei. So she said to him, "Leheve b'yodach, hold on to it," meaning be my shliach lekabbalah and accept it from me. So Amr Reb Nachman im Isel Reb Chanina avdi be'uvda. If I would know that the halacha is like Reb Chanina, that an Isha is able to make a Shliach L'Kabbalah from after the husband Shliach L'Halacha, so then I would say that this would be a good get, right? Because what happened? Even though it's not two shluchim, it's one shliach, but depending on what time we're looking at it, where's this guy holding? Again, what happened was a fellow was being a shliach from the husband to the wife, right? As a shliach l'hilocha. And then when he comes to the Isha says, be my shliach l'kabbalah. So now, is that like a regular case that we're talking about until now? Or pshat is we're saying something new over here, right? So I'm Rav Nachman of Isla Rav Chanina Avdi Ba'uvda. So Rashi Miyisi Yedesh Halacha Kamaise. If I would know for sure that halacha would be like Rav Chanina, Avidna Bahamilsa Uvda Kavasev Aminim Gureshes. I would say it's a good get. V'loy Chashin Lachatzer Balach. Rav is not going to be happy with this Maisa because he's going to say that we're talking about that this is a case of Chatzer Balach because she's only appointing him Shliach L'Kabbalah only after she's bringing the get from the husband. Really, she had to have taken it already from him, from the shliach, right? And she did it, and she's saying, "Oh, be my shliach l'kabbalah now, and now you could do that." So the Gemara is saying that Rav Nachman is saying it would sound very similar to the case of Chatzei Rabbo Liachamikan, and it would be an issue. So the Gemara says, "So Amalei Rabba." So Rabba said to Rav Nachman, "B'mitzvah Rav Chanina avdus b'uvda." If the halacha would be like Rav Chanina, you would say that it would be a good get. Now, there's a concept in shlichus altogether that if I send you a shliach to go buy my grandmother some fish in the store, right? So it's going to take you a few hours till you're going to get there. You have to come back and tell me that asisa shlichus. You have to come back and I said I did the shlichus, I did the job, right? I got to let the feedback. Yeah, you got to let them know. So over here, where's the feedback over here that the shlichus was mekayim, that the shliach was mekayim his shlichus? Zok Rashi, shliach shechozak. The shliach came back. V'nasa shliach l'mishtan shtal chlen nitzig m'shlichus arishan ad shaloi hoyaloi shohuslach etel sholcha v'lem atzisi shlichusei. By the time he has to go back to the husband to tell the husband that it was mekayim your shlichus, he's already stuck in the shlichus of the isha to be the shlich l'kabbalah. So it's not even a problem of chatzer balachim mikan, because let's say even in the case where, let's say we're not concerned b'chlal by chatzer balachim mikan, but how could you say that it was chazer shlichus etzel abal? But before he even had a chance, a person could only do one shlichus at a time, right? So if you're going to be the shlich for the husband, you can't be the shlich for the wife until you let the husband know that you're mekayim the shlichus. And because you can't do that in this case, because as soon as he walks in the door to give it a get to the, her hands are dirty, so she doesn't want to accept the get. She says, listen, Rabbi, you'll be my shlich l'kabbalah. He said, how can I be shlich l'kabbalah? It's because shlich l'setzel abal. Yeah. So as I fragt, Rava to Rav Nachman. So how could you say osisi shlichusech to bring the get? Meaning because the shlichus that you can't go back and say osisi shlichusech is not considered good shlichus. So shalchu l'kamei Ravami. Of all things, they sent this question with a shlichus to Ravami. That with the following question: is such a shlichus where you don't have the availability to show that chazer shlichus eitzel habal? So Rav is saying that it's not a good shlichus. So they asked Ravami, is that true? So Shalach Lahu Ravami sent back to them, Loi chazer shlichus eitzel habal. That there's taka a problem of Loi chazer shlichus eitzel habal, and the Baal cannot become a shlich for the Isha, and she's not Megureshes until she actually accepts the get in her hand, and she cannot appoint him to be a shlich l'kabbalah. Okay? Let's be ma'ayin and figure out let's figure it out. He doesn't have an answer yet. Na'ayin bozok Rashi. Let's research the inyan. Let's think about it. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not jump to answers. Let's think it through before we give an answer. So the Gemara continues with the story. So they sent, after a few days, they sent this question to Rav Chia bar Abba for what he's going to tell us, how he's going to pass him. So Omar Kol Hani Sholchu Lavazli. All these people are asking me all kinds of questions. I'm not able to answer them clearly. So just like your meaning he was very, very busy getting all kinds of shilas from all over the place. So he says, I can't answer all the questions. Yeah. All these people going back and forth to ask me questions. And so the same way you're asking the question, I was bothered by the same question. It's a good question, he's saying. What does this mean? So this is a question of Davar Sheba, meaning it's a suffix of a Davar Sheba over here. So the din would be in a case where the husband would die, like we said before in the Gemara, that if there's a suffix of when the husband died, so then it's chayletis, right? We have to go weiter. We have to go by a davar sheba. We go lechumra. We'll pass in chayletis because maybe it wasn't a good get, and she would still need to do yibum. So on the tzad that she would still need to do yibum, but we don't want to push anything onto anybody. So the chalitza is the safest route out, the safest route out of town. Because if it's not a good get, she's still going to have to do yibum, but she can't do yibum because maybe the get was chal. Meaning, if the get was chal, then you can't do yibum, and if you're going to do, maybe there wasn't a get, so then she would have to do yibum. So what do? You do chalitza, and it answers all the problems. As he zogt, Rav Chiva Rabba, he said just to remain on the safe side of things, just do chalitza. Sahava uvda, and there was a ma'aseh like this. That this question that who gavra. This story actually happened in real life. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta get v'chalitza. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta was even more machmer, because he says you need another get and chalitza, meaning that the get, we don't want to use that original get because that get was already, it's too famished already. We're not going to use it. It's no good. So misafik, he was matrich another get and also chalitza, because maybe the first get was not a good get at all. Because if you hold that lechazor shlichus eitzel abal, so it was a faulty shlichus, so then the get's not a good get. You're just picking up a paper from the floor and thinking megaresh. It doesn't work like that. So zakti gemara azay. So tarti. So you think that Rav Yitzchak needed them to a get and also chalitza? The way we were mevar, the way we explained the Gemara before, the question was like this. If it's not a good get, then you have to do yibum. If it is a good get, then you can't do yibum, right? So then what? So then why do you need a get and chalitza definitely doesn't make any sense. So have a uvda zakrashi ki agav and have atrache get acher. He required to write another get. Mishum lo chazor shlichos, because chazor shlichos is powerful enough to say that you would need a new get. So frankly, Gemara tarti bitmiya im get la chalitza mishameis. If there's a get, so then why do you need to do chalitza if he died? So Zok the Gemara that get mechayim v'chalitza la'achar misa. Rav Yitzchak wasn't mechayev that he should give a get now and chalitza at the same time. He gave the option like this: either you make sure that there's another get while the husband's still alive, or you do chalitza la'achar misa, and again, this would be because chalitza would be taking the safest route out of town, as we just explained. Okay, we'll have one more story in the Gemara, and then we'll stop for the evening. Hahida v'karlei nafasa. There was an isha that they called her nafasa, and it wasn't a nice name, and the husband wanted to be megarisher. So he appointed a shliach to write a get and to give it to her to get her away. So Azal Sadi because of tafasa. So the Adam wrote in the get tafasa instead of nafasa. Wrong name. The Adam wrote one get, and they were ready mekayim the shlichus, and they don't have to do a second get. Why? Because the Baal only pointed them to do one get and not two. They messed up. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Right? Obviously, there's going to be a big problem over here, and that's going to be the Gemara's next kasha. But I think we'll leave it for tomorrow night, Mitzvah Hashem, because I'm trying to daven and Ma'ariv, but this is a little bit of a strange story, because technically speaking, I told you to do this. You went, you did something else. You were never even mekayim the shlichus to begin with. You'll say everything was good besides for the name, right? May get back into the machlekes of Eidei Chsima Karsi, Eidei Mesiri Karsi, obviously. I feel I'm done and ready thinking about that, huh? Great. All right.
So how does the shlichus for the Baal